All right, Saturday, May 31st is the Lion Channel. I'm John, day 30 of my manifesting journey. What I wanted to talk about today, there's an analogy that just kind of came to me. I haven't heard it, but I'm not sure. Somebody else might have used it. And I was listening to David's videos today, as I always do. I'm still going through. He's got so many videos. Right now I'm listening to old live recordings that he did from like 11 months ago. Right now, July of last year. And somebody was asking him a question about manifestation, and I wrote down basically what he suggested. And I wrote this down because he said, you know, people are just asking him questions all the time about all different stuff. And, you know, as I talk about, I've mentioned a few times on here, is that there's no free will, basically. Like during the day, it's all about changing states of consciousness. And the only way to change your state of consciousness is by falling asleep in a different state of consciousness than you fell asleep with last night. Okay, so basically he asked, and I guess some people seem to struggle, from what I've seen, coming up with like a desire or something that they want. You know, it seems like everyone wants to win the lottery, but then when it comes down to like, you know, you can only focus on one thing, or that's what Neville Goddard recommended, is to focus on one desire at a time. And when you have to, like, you know, pick one, then it's like the answer changes, and it's almost like you don't know what to, you know, if you're thinking of it as a wish, like I only have one wish that I can work on at a time, you know, it could be a little tough to like, all right, because, you know, I'm going to focus on this until it comes. And your job is not to worry about when it's coming. So the desire that you have, you want to make sure that you kind of want it, because you're going to be spending time falling asleep every night until you get it. And that's where you want your focus to be solely. So basically what he said, he posed this question, and he said, if you just ask yourself this question, it will eliminate most of the questions that he gets. And it basically comes down to this. Think of your current circumstance. What is your current circumstance preventing you from doing? So if you have, let's say you can't walk and you're disabled, then you want to imagine yourself doing the thing that your current circumstance is preventing you from doing. So if you're disabled and the doctors have said you're, you know, paralyzed and you're never going to walk again or whatever, you want to imagine yourself doing that thing, which is walking, running, skipping, jumping, going to the gym, doing squats, doing all of these things. Imagine yourself doing all of these things that your current circumstance is preventing you from doing. And you do it all throughout the day. Like I've talked about on here, you visualize yourself doing it. Not that it's going to make a difference during the day, because where you really impress the subconscious mind is the state akin to sleep. That's that moment, you know, that David calls the drift, where you're not awake, but you're not asleep. And it's that moment where you fall into the sleep state. It's like that. It's a moment in time. And so what happens is the state of consciousness that you're in, when you enter that state akin to sleep, that impress the subconscious with that state. And then your reality starts to shift, maybe slightly, okay, incrementally each day. If you continue doing it, that's why consistency is so important. But he's had people in his, I don't know if multiple people, but he's definitely had one success story from his community where doctors told a woman that she was never going to walk again. And she started doing that and falling asleep, imagining herself running and skipping and jumping over and over and over again. And now he said she's doing CrossFit. Doctor said she would never walk again. Okay. So, anything is possible. When you're talking about shifting states of consciousness, the only reason your life is the way it is because you've been falling asleep in a state of consciousness, maybe unbeknownst to you. If you're just learning this material like I did, I just started learning this 2 months ago, and in less than 2 months ago. And in less than 2 months, my life has totally changed. Where I said before, like, if you looked at where I was across the board, health, wealth, love, happiness, you could have basically said I was less than a 5 in all of those things. Now I'm tens across the board, basically. Like when you compare the jump in less than 2 months. All right, so this is a very powerful question to ask yourself, but the analogy and the idea that came to me, okay, again, I'm not sure if anybody's used this, but I just thought about this today. Because there is no free will during the day, okay, you cannot act outside of your state of consciousness. So whatever you fall asleep, whatever state of consciousness you fall asleep in, that's what you're going to live the next day. All right, so think of yourself each night that you're falling asleep, and depending on how you feel, you're choosing a roller coaster. You're choosing your roller coaster that you get on for the next day. This is the analogy that came to me, because once you fall asleep in that state of consciousness, that's the roller coaster you're going to be on throughout the next day, and now you're just along for the ride because there's no free will to change it. That's going to be your state of consciousness for the next day. So that's how, think of what happens when you get on a roller coaster. You're done. The roller coaster, you're on the roller coaster, and you basically have no free will. You're at the mercy of the roller coaster. So it's kind of like the same thing. When you fall asleep in a certain state of consciousness, and then you wake up the next day and you're living your day, that state of consciousness, that's the roller coaster that you're going to be on. But at the same time, when you know that, like the rest of your day today, if you're listening to this video and you're like, okay, I believe that there really is no free will, and then you look at it and you realize like, I fell asleep in this state of consciousness last night, then you can maybe look at it and just let go and just be like, okay, I'm on a roller coaster. I'm not going to fight it. Even though things have been happening to me today that I really don't like, then you can detach, which is the other thing that I talk about with the simulation. But that's what was on my mind today. So I wanted to share that. There were some other things that happened today in terms of relationships and stuff that I wanted to talk about. But my brother has a 40th birthday party tonight, and we're going there, and we're leaving shortly, and I still have some stuff to do. But one more thing I wanted to talk about, the 5 by 55. I have 27 written down today, so I have 28 more to go. As I said yesterday, it is worth doing, because I did notice that it did start to enter my mind from writing this over and over and over again, and I've been more focused on my desire during the day, and I've been visualizing at times where previously I had kind of gotten away from it. So I do recommend it. You know, if you have the time. It took me, as I said, like an hour each day. All right. So if you wanted to, you know, squeeze that in, but ultimately it all comes down to what I just talked about, which is your state of consciousness when you're falling asleep. Okay. Who do you want to be? What do you want your tomorrow to look like? Okay. Fall asleep in that state of consciousness and your world will start to match that. All right. I love you all. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. See you.